Hey everyone, welcome to the UFO Hub live stream. Today's guest is going to be Dee Wallace. She's a world-renowned actress and author and has been talking to people and lecturing on self-creation for well over 30 years. So I'm excited to talk to her today. She'll be talking to me about a new book called Born, Giving Birth to a New You. And so I'm going to have Dee on for a short time. So I'm hoping for those that would like to ask some questions later on during the Q&A to please submit your questions on chat using 3 asterisks before your question, or join the live chat going on right now on Telegram to where you can ask the question directly. And so you can, for the Telegram specifically, you can download the app on your telephone and the computer. I have the link for the UFO Hub Telegram group in the description below. And as always, all the links for all my speakers, their information is in the description as well. So please don't hesitate to check it out and see what else they have to offer. So without any further ado, and because of the short time, let me bring in Dee Wallace. Dee, thanks for being on. Welcome.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. And I'm so happy that we met through our friend Dolores Cannon.
Me too, very much so, especially since it's been quite a while, 8 years, and I was very excited that even though you were not feeling well and all the things you were going through, that, you still agreed to do an interview with me, and it meant a lot to me. I really appreciate it.
You're talking about way back then, 8 years ago. Yes, absolutely, darling. You're welcome. And I'm really happy to be here with you again.
Well, great. Thank you. All right. So let's, I figured before we go into your book, if you could please give us a little bit of, a little bit of information about yourself, maybe how you got started with the spiritual aspects of things, maybe how it incorporated with your acting. And then after that, I'll ask you some more questions.
Okay, I'll try and put this in a nutshell as much as I can. When I was a very little girl, I would get messages and channel. One time I woke up, I think I was about 8 years old. I spent every day with my grandmother, so we were very close because my mom had to work. And I woke up in the middle of the night around 3 a.m. and I went into my mom and I said, "Mommy, something's wrong at Grandma's." And God bless my mother. She got up and called and nobody answered. So we drove over there and the cat had gotten up on the stove and turned all the burners on. So the house was filling with gas. And I would have a lot of experiences like that. My father visited me as a light in my room after his suicide in high school. And then I went to college and I kind of put all that away until I met my husband, Christopher Stone, who was very interested in a program called conceptology, which was a philosophy that way preceded The Secret and all of that. So we would go a couple of times a month down to Santa Ana and study that philosophy. And so it started opening up all these things for me again. And then he died suddenly, and I dropped to my knees and I said, I don't want to be a victim and I don't want to be pissed off the rest of my life. I want a way we can heal ourselves, which is asking. And like that, I started receiving channeled messages. And the first one was use the light within you to heal yourself. And I've pretty much been exploring what that means in the most exponential terms ever since. And I was teaching an acting studio, 4 or 5 classes a week, and all of a sudden I would start getting messages from all my students about where their blocks were in their scenes, and their life started to change. And then their parents worked with me, and then their friends worked with me, and now I have clients all over the world. I'm a clairaudient channel, so I receive messages. Oftentimes I get pictures. And all my books that I've written are around the creation process. But my latest book, Born, is short, concise, really easy to read. And it's a primer for every step you need to do to create the life you want.
So the Born is is this your fifth book, or is Born your sixth book? And so can you maybe give us just the basics of what it entails, what it is that you want people to know in this new book?
Well, again, it is every step that needs to happen for you to create money or relationships or health. Or the first one would be choice. Most people think they make conscious choices. Most people don't. Most people, when you say, well, what do you want? Well, I don't want to have to worry about money. I don't want to be sick anymore. So they will tell you what they don't want, which, of course, a lot of my work combines brain science with spirituality. And in brain science, whatever you focus on, you create more of. That's why in the Bible, Christ said, think only on these things: joy, peace, love, because that's what you will create more of in your life. So one of I think the most important chapters in Born is called the Three Pillars, because if the three pillars aren't in alignment, then your creation is thwarted or watered down or not brought in at all. And those three pillars are how I see myself, how I see the world, and how I see the world seeing me. So most of you know I'm an actress. I have over 250 credits now. Just finished another wonderful romantic comedy. And so in the beginning, though, I had to say, okay, I am an actress. I see me as an actress. But then if I looked out into the world and I said, but nobody else out there is going to see me as an actress. No, nobody, the casting directors or agents, they're not going to see me as who I think I am. Then it stops there. Or if I say, I think I think there's a world out there that I could be an actress in. But I don't think anybody is looking at me and seeing the actress that I am. Then it stops there. So all those three things have to be in alignment. And I devote a whole chapter to that. I talk a lot about the power of love. Most of us think love is something that happens to us. And love is actually the most powerful force we have to create anything that we want. But most of us don't use love because we don't like the fact that we don't have what we want. So we don't like not having money. So our minds go, well, what do you mean I have to love money? I don't have it. Your monkey mind comes in and leads you down a false road. Self-love is incredibly important, because who do we want to give everything to? The people we love. And we're usually at the end of that list, if we're on it at all, because most of us are taught that to love ourselves is selfish and braggadocious, and God and people are going to judge us and not love us if we know how special we are. So we've just been taught a lot of really false belief systems. And as the good book says, as you believe, it is delivered to you. It's kind of like, the film The Matrix. Pick a door, any door. And that is the experience then that you can choose to have. But you're choosing it, you see. Everything starts within us. Everything. Every part of creation starts within us. That's why we were given free will. So I'll let you take it from there.
Well, I agree when it comes to love, especially that part, because I think a lot of people kind of use it as this throwaway word, right? It's always because it's always kind of set as a byline, okay, love you, bye, hey, I love you all, okay, take care, thanks, and it's almost like through that, it's nice as it is, it kind of loses its meaning, but then at the same time, you forget the power of it, what it truly means to love somebody. And so,
well, and I think a lot of us believe that we have to be loved before we can choose to love. We're always at choice to live in love. Love isn't something that happens to you. Love is what you are.
right. And so I don't wish to switch to this very 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 early, but while you were writing this book, was it basically just all these different inspirations and your own overcoming of all these different issues that kind of were bound together to create this book, Born?
Not at all. Not at all. This book is all channeled. I sat down. Look, when the pandemic hit, and I got up one morning and all the studios had closed down, and I went, oh my God, how am I going to make a living? My channel said, Dee, the studios aren't your living. Your consciousness is your living. Get up every day and say, okay, what can I create today? And one day I got up and said, okay, what can I create today? And I heard, write the book. So I did. And I just went into my channel. They gave me chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. Everything is built, and it's fun, guys. It's so easy. People think that creation is really hard and that it has to be very serious, right? The lighter you are and the more fun you have creating what you want, the more the universe responds. And I talk a lot about that in Born also, that we're electrical beings. They measure our hearts through electrocardiograms. They measure our brains through electroencephalograms. Every thought and feeling we have has an electrical impulse that shoots out, a frequency that shoots out into the universe, which is, guess what? Electromagnetic. So if we send out a positive frequency, the universe is going, okay, there's a match to that. And that gets sent back as the reality of our life. If we send out a fearful, limiting frequency, the universe goes, there's a match to that, and that gets sent back. So if you don't address your belief systems and your negative limiting thoughts, which create your feelings, not much is going to change in your life, guys.
Do you have a favorite story or a story that you would like to share of something about using this power of creation, or something that you manifested in your life?
E.T. E.T. is a perfect example. That's when we were attending these classes on conceptology, and one week he said, which my channel is very big on, by the way, write everything down that you want, everything on a list, and just look at it every day. Don't try to make it happen. Just look at it and go, wow, wouldn't that be fun? I did that in June. In August, Mr. Spielberg called and offered me ET. Now, you see, I couldn't have really honed in on ET and created ET because I didn't even know it was being created. But I was a match vibrationally to that movie. And it's no surprise that the message of the movie is keep your heart open, keep your heart light on. You get back to the home of you, because that's what my work is all about.
Yeah, there's some stories from some of the people that might have written to you that have told you about their creation stories.
Oh, yes, I have a lot of them in the book Born. One of my favorites, um, and I just did a private session with her today, but she needed to get from New York to California, and her flight was canceled. And her family said, well, you might as well come home. You're not ever going to get on another flight today. She said, oh, yes, I will. And she just sat down and she said, Dee, I did everything you taught. I sat there. I envisioned exactly what I wanted. I said everything that I wanted. I said, I am, not I want, I am getting home today. And it's going to be easy. And I'm going to attract the right person. So she went up to the first person, and she had made her flight through a third agency thing. And the attendant said, oh, I'm so sorry. You know, we do have room on the plane, but since you made it through this third person agency, we can't change your reservation. And she said, okay. And she said, I left for an hour. I went to get something to eat. They had changed attendants. I went back and I said, hi, I would really like to get on this flight to Los Angeles. And I told her my story, and she said, oh, you know, you've made, and then she looked at her and she said, I'm not supposed to do this, but I really like you. So I'm going to let you on. I'm going to change your reservation. And she got, you know, I have so many stories. I've created 3 series with the premise that I write in Born. I created my daughter. I had 6 specialists tell me I would never have a baby. And I said, you know what? God and I have a different plan, dude. And I saw her. I knew I wanted a little girl. And I saw her and I felt her and I kept focused on her. Now, did I have to work with an acupuncturist? You bet. And I was willing to. Did I have to take a film and go to Australia to meet with a specialist down there who told me I had this huge fibroid that none of these other doctors could find? But you see, when you are clear and when you are committed, the universe opens up all kinds of avenues to take you to your dream.
You know, I think people also, they almost become afraid when they're, it's almost like they have it ingrained in them that whatever you want, it has to be hard, you know,
Oh, sure.
because
I did.
right. And so could you maybe a little bit talk about, you know, that part about, you know, possibly with the actual, you know, not whatchamacallit, basically not using love as this throwaway word and then getting rid of fear. Are there any specific steps? Because I don't know why people can't just say, okay, go ahead and, just do what you need to do, right? Like the Nike logo, just do it. They
Okay.
always want these 1, 2, 3 steps programs for some reason. I don't know if it's our brains or how
Well,
we're
I'll
wired.
tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because our brains around how we see ourselves, we see our self-esteem, how we see ourselves in the world, totally locked in by 8 years old.
Hmm.
So whatever you were taught or modeled in front of you from the time of conception to 8 years old, that's how you think the world works. And that's why they talk about sins of the fathers being passed down, because all our parents were taught that they needed to struggle because their parents were taught that they needed to struggle, right?
Hmm.
And so we, again, as you believe, it's delivered to you. We have a belief system in place from childhood that if we don't struggle, we won't get what we want.
Hmm.
And so we get to our adult years and we keep hammering against all these doors that we come up against. And the more you resist, the more resistance you get. If you try pushing against a wall, all you will get is resistance. The universe works the same way.
So I guess, and then in essence, they don't necessarily have to go down the path of necessarily learning how to channel or anything like that, because it's not required for what this is, right?
Channeling is not required, but the steps of understanding the steps of creation sure are.
I
You
see.
have to make a clear choice. You have to commit to it. You have to feel love around it. And then, there are other steps that I go into in the book.
Right.
But making a clear choice and committing to it, most of us, the best analogy I can give you is what you want is just on the other side of the door. And most of us spend our lives going, all right, I got to walk out that door. Gosh, am I safe to walk out that door? I really don't know what's on the other side. Am I too old? Maybe I'm too young. Or maybe I'm too fat to walk out the door. Maybe I'm not supposed to walk out the door. Maybe God doesn't want me to walk out the door. Maybe my friends and everybody are going to judge me. And we spend our whole life doing that when all we have to do is walk out the door
Right.
and start creating what we want.
So, well, when it comes to, especially, let's say, these certain steps that are sometimes in front of us, I wish sometimes they're not that, because of this different fear and because of this lack of just wanting to just grasp whatever is there for you to take. I feel like that people don't even just pick up on the subtle things that are just right there. For example, like if there's always a first step, right, to something. Let's say if I let's for example use to be an actor or actress, right? They immediately expect a phone call from this big company to call them and sign them, and then they're on. They're not realizing that, hey, maybe this local theater group would like you to play this part, and then from there it might build to something else. But they're always like, no, I'm going to hold off for something better. No, I'm waiting for the big part. They don't realize that even the smallest obscure things is what will eventually get you where you need to go.
Well, I think a lot of people do that so they won't get there.
Ah, I see.
Yeah. They live in that illusion instead of being willing to take whatever steps they need to take. I mean, I studied in Kansas, but I knew that I had to leave Kansas if I was going to ever be the actress that I wanted to be. So, never been out of Kansas in my life, moved to New York City by myself. Read the New York Times before I left, the theater section. Saw that Hal Prince was creating a new musical, which turned out to be a little night music, and he was looking for an unknown to star in the lead part. So I wrote him this letter. Cheesiest letter. Oh my God, I wish I still had a copy of it. Took the cheesiest picture and I sent it off to Hal Prince. 3 weeks later, his secretary called and said, Mr. Prince would like to fly you to New York to audition for a little night music. I said, oh, what day does he need me? Well, it just so happened I already had booked a flight. I had my ticket, you know. Stupid me, he would have flown me first class. But the first day in New York, I got down to the last 5 girls in auditioning for Hal Prince. When I got out here to LA, you couldn't get on the lots. So I said, I'm going to bake some chocolate chip cookies and I'm going to wrap them up like, you know, some big fancy thing. And I pulled up to the guard gate and I said, I have deliveries. He said, yeah, go on through. And that's how I got my first part. I was delivering cookies to the head of casting at Universal. And he said, oh, come on in. I want to meet you. And as I was sitting there, they called from the set that the girl who was supposed to play the waitress, who had 5 lines, was sick. And that was the first scene up. And he covered the phone and he looked at me and said, what size do you wear? I said, what size do you need, honey? I'll get in it. And that was my first. But you see, you have to be willing to play. You have to be willing to go out there.
Right.
Joyfully, right?
Right.
And do whatever you need to do within your moral boundaries, that whatever steps you need to take so that you get to the next step. My first film was a religious film. And I said, you know, I'm going to invite 10 of the biggest agents that would handle somebody like me at this point in my career to see this film. I'm going to rent a little film viewing place. And everybody said, are you kidding me? They're going to laugh you out of that room, Dee. They are going to laugh you out of that room. No Hollywood agent's going to sit there and watch a religious film. Well, I said, you know what? If they can't see my acting in this film, I don't want him to represent me anyway. Do you know 8 of the 9 agents that were there wanted to represent me?
Wow.
But I couldn't listen to everybody else's fears. I had to stand in my knowing that I saw that film and I was good in it. And I knew I was good in it.
Right. You know, as you're telling me the story and just the way, you know, you're speaking about the things you've written in Born, it just seems like that victimhood mentality is like just not allowed.
I have learned that doesn't serve you ever at all in any scenario.
Right. Right. No, I agree. I personally agree. But you know, just I'm excited to hear that too. You know, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's your life. I would think, right? You know, you have to. You're living it, and it's like if you don't take any steps and constantly hold yourself back because of some excuse you make up and you know continue being the victim, then that's the story of your life. That's going to be the story of your life until the end of your life.
And that's what most of us do. We keep telling our stories and keep defining ourselves through the limitations of those stories. You know, guys, I was raised in an extremely poor family. Uh, my father was a salesman who, because of the war, became a severe alcoholic pretty much most of my life from the time I can remember, even 7 or 8. Um, my mom was a secretary, uh, but she was also a wonderful actress in community theater. My grandmother was a beautiful artist, never did anything outside of the home, but beautiful pastel painter. So there was a lot of creativity in my house. But my father, when I was a senior in high school, shot himself in the head. So, you know, I have a lot of stories that I could have used. Well, I can't do this because that happened to me when I was little, and you know, and I've got all these memories, and what's the point?
Mm.
I work with this brain expert called Dana Wild, and I love the way she puts it. She said, you know, there's nothing wrong with your story except you keep telling it. And if we keep telling our stories, we are literally directing energy to keep creating itself in our lives that way.
Dee, I wanted to ask you one more question, and I was thinking for us to maybe go into some Q&A to see what kind of questions
Sure.
people might have. I wanted to ask you, there's this other part that when I was looking over in preparation for the show, can you speak to me a little bit about the I Love Me's?
Oh, that's my children's book. Bupalopaloo and the I Love Me's.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. And it is available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble also. Because I just know how important it is because our brains are locked in at 8 years old. If we were all taught um, the true cores of creation when we were young, my God, how much more powerful would we all be? How much happier would we all be? And so the first book of Bapalopaloo and the I Love Me's teaches the little boy in the book that he's got to choose who he wants to be. You know, daddy says I'm not strong enough, and grandma says I'm not old enough, and mom says I'm not a good enough friend, and Buppa says, but you haven't asked the most important person. And the little boy goes, well, who's that? And Buppa says, you. Who do you choose you want to be? Because we've got to start early giving our kids the definition of their magnificence so that they can learn to define themselves and create the life they want.
Well, Dee, I'm glad that you have that, especially because I have an 8 months old, a four-year old, and a 14-year-old, and I wish we
Perfect.
started with the 14-year-old a lot sooner because this would be, when I sit back, is I feel like parents don't take enough action in their kids' life to teach them their values and what they feel like it's important as to be part of the
Yeah.
family and what the family stands for, and
Or they teach them the wrong values.
right. Yeah, especially if the parents don't have them to begin with. I can see
Yeah.
that.
But
So,
most kids are taught sit down, shut up, be quiet, don't
right.
bother us.
That was my upbringing. Don't ask
Yeah,
questions. Because I
yeah,
said so. That was my parents' favorite answer because I said so.
yeah, yeah. But you see that, I mean, I got so much flack from my family, the way I raised my daughter, Gabrielle. Um, you you give her too much room and you give her too much freedom and you give her too many rights, right, to say what she thinks and all that. Well, look at her today. She has 2 best-selling books out. She has a top podcast on. She has just been offered to direct her first film. I mean, yeah, I'm really proud that I taught her to be a very strong woman when she was 4 years old.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that's a perfect example. Perfect
Yeah.
example of a working strategy, I guess, for lack of a better word. So, Deal, I figured we'll go into some questions. Let me just talk to the audience real quick. For those listening on Telegram, if you raise your hand, if you would like to ask a question directly, just click that little fella that looks like they're raising their hand. That will put you in my queue. And some have already submitted some question in chat, and I appreciate them using the 3 asterisks before the question. It just helps me. It pops out at me a lot easier, and I know it's meant for the guests. So. I figured let's get started with the first question. The first one is from Labeled369, asking, "How did you bypass the training of your early childhood? Were you reared with less negativity than most of us?"
I believe I was, and I lived in a house of dichotomy. There was a lot of love, and there was a lot of trauma. I think I knew innately within me that if I was going to pull myself out of where I was, nobody was going to do it for me but me. I had a lot of support from my mother, even though when I told her I wanted to be an actress and I was going to New York, she said, "Oh, Dee Dee, fine, be an actress, but can you do it in Kansas?" Because parents have their own fears and they want to protect us. But I'm telling all of you, you are the creator of you. No one can feel a feeling, think a thought, hold a belief or a perspective that you do not choose, consciously or unconsciously. That's why we were given free will to create ourselves on this plane. So if you want to change your life, look within you and start seeing where you can be happier, where you can be more joyful, where you can give yourself freedom, where all the ways that you can find to love yourself. Because you're very powerful, guys. You're so powerful, but you have to choose to use that power.
Thank you for that. The next question is from Edward, asking, okay, that the story of my life, how can we reprogram our brain to eliminate these thoughts?
Okay, good question. And it's easier than you think. The simple answer is be conscious. So, for example, if I get up in the morning and go, "Oh my God, I look so fat," I stop and I go, "Deanna, is that thought really going to get you what you want? Do you think everybody out there is going to hire a fat actress? Do you think anybody out there is going to want to play with somebody who's judging themselves all the time? Deanna, you are already in the toilet and you're ready to flush yourself down. Would you like to choose a new thought?" And I go, "Yeah, I think I'm going to love my body. I think I'm just going to love me the way I am. And I'm going to know that there are other people out there that are going to love me the way I am." And that's what I'm putting out there today. So, self-talk, if you do it in that way, what it does is you literally start laughing. I heard somebody giggle, right? You start laughing. And what that does is it disconnects you from that victim place that you're in, so that then you can literally choose the thought or the feeling that you want to have that's going to give you what you want. So, oh my God, I never have enough money. Will never bring you the money.
Mm.
But if you stop and go, I love money. I love having money. Woo-hoo-hoo, I do. What could I do with all that money? Well, I could help people. I could buy things for my daughter. I could give to all the charities that I love to give to. I could pay my mom's house off, which I did. You know, money feels good. Yeah, I love money. I'm going to be the vibration of money. I'm going to be the vibration of money. I'm not going to try and get money. I'm going to be money. And then money finds you. I promise you. It's crazy to watch, just like E.T. found me.
Great, thank you for that. The next question is from JJ asking, curious what Miss Wallace remembers regarding the E.T. Mandela effect. Does she remember E.T. saying phone home or home phone when E.T. points out the window?
E.T. always says phone home.
Okay. All right. Well,
always. Because, and let me explain to you, creation has to start within you. And that was one of E.T.'s message. Because if you shut off your heart and you shut down your heart, you cannot send that positive light frequency out into the electromagnetic universe. You can't phone home if you shut yourself down. And what most of us believe is if we get in fear or challenged in any way, we shut down to protect ourselves, which is the worst thing you can do. You want to consciously open your heart, open your chakras, so that the energy can flow through you. Look, guys, you've heard it in so many. Look at Peter Pan. Think happy thoughts and you fly. The Wizard of Oz, you had the power all along, Dorothy, to go back home. E.T., keep your heart light open and you get home. We hear it and we hear it and we hear it, but we don't live it.
great. Thank you. The next question is from Yaos, basically asking how to let go of family members who have been distant from her for years.
Okay, well, my first question to you is, why do you need them? Do you need them for your self-esteem? Do you need to feel like you're in control by getting them back? Do you feel guilty because you think you've done something wrong? The guiding statement that I give all my clients is, do not throw your pearls before swine. And what that means is, if there are those in your life who are not willing to receive the love from you and return it, why? Go take your love to someone who does, who wants it, who wants that interaction, and who will respect and honor you in the way you deserve to be respected and honored. I hope that answered your question.
Great, thank you, Dee. Well, Dee, we're coming close to our conclusion of the interview. I wanted to ask you if you could leave us with some final thoughts before we sign off.
Yes, guys, the biggest message my channel always brings through is love yourself and love yourself and love yourself more. Because really, that has to be in place for your creation process to bring about all the desires of your heart. And it's easy, but it's a choice. And I will show everybody right now. I want you to pick a love place. And that's anything that makes your heart open and makes you smile. I go right to my doggie or my beautiful Hawaii that I love, or my daughter when she was a baby. So find something that is your love place. And just close your eyes, go to your heart center, and you know where that is, and just feel that love for that love place. And just let it expand, just wallow in it. And now choose to use that love for you. If you know how to love anything, you know how to love yourself. Practice it and commit to it, and your life will change, I promise.
Dee, that was great. Thank you very much again for all your messages today and for being on and speaking to everyone here. So let me finish up with the audience. Please don't log off on me, and then we'll conclude here. So everyone else watching, thank you all very much for tuning in. As always, the link to Dee's book, Born, Giving Birth to a New You, and her website, and I'm sure it's many other things that she has for you to look at and to offer. Please do go check it out. It's all in the description below. I'm basically just grateful for all of you logging in today, and I hope those of you asking questions that you have your question answered. So thank you all very much. Dee, thank you again, and I will speak to you all next time during the next show. Take care.
Much love to everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.